Yeah, 26, 34, one. How about that, buddy? Would you look at it? Check it out, look. Excellent. I just need a subscriber today. So my, oh look, we got 8 viewers too. So that means the alert went out and it worked. Two jumped out already. They said they're already bored. 4. Oh, it's getting worse. 7. Like 7 on. Picking up something. It makes it muted. It's picking up something. That's not even muted. All of them are? Still picking up something. Oh, it's this guy. Hopefully we have audio. Listen to this.
You're not even recording. It's taking live where?
It's live. We're live right now. This guy. Right here. Pick it up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Secondary to school board of education, September 16th meeting, the roll call, please.
Mr. Arndt, Dana, Ms. Fisher, Mrs. Metzler, Mrs. Ortiz.
President,
Yes, we are.
please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any correspondence tonight?
I do have something that I'd like to share as correspondence. I had a correspondence with the Asheville County Health Department, and part of the requirement for a meeting tonight in a public board meeting was that we fell under entertainment venues, which include auditorium, and so I had to submit a plan which was approved by the Asheville County Health Department. It had to include entrance and exits for all in one single location, hand sanitizing stations at entrance and other locations, requirements for face coverings to be worn, signage for social distancing, and marked areas to limit seating in certain rows and areas, posting online school website about procedures and regulations for a meeting, and announcements and monitoring for sharing that before, during, and after the meeting to discourage individuals from congregating. We did post signs that, again, you are required to wear a face covering. Please social distance, keep a minimum of 6 feet of distance. Do not congregate prior to, during, or after the meeting. And please, again, sit in one of the marked rows. They do have green tape on the ends. Family groups may sit together, otherwise leave at least 2 seats between people. Thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to share some correspondence. First, we received an email from our Ohio School Plan, which is our insurer, informing us that a lawsuit was filed in the Southern District of New York where it has attempted to name every school district in the United States as defendants. The lawsuit involves special education and a demand to reopen. The complaint suggests that the lawsuit is or is intended to be a class action lawsuit against every school district listed on the attachment to the complaint, and that attachment lists what is characterized as every school district in the United States. Our school may be on that list, and we may receive an email associated with that case with a summons attached and a statement that you have been served or that you need to follow instructions to waive service. However, you're not required to waive service, and the Ohio School Plan does not recommend it. They go on to let us know that this case is not currently a class action lawsuit, and all school districts are not defendants. They have not completed the legal process that is needed for a class action lawsuit to be certified. That process has not even occurred. So right now it's limited to the only defendant being the New York City Department of Education, and they let us know that there's no need to respond to the plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction or temporary restraining order. But it does mention in here that the judge has expressed concern that the court does not have jurisdiction over all school districts in the United States, and noted plaintiff's allegations are factually deficient and do not pass the last test. So that may not go anywhere, but they were notifying us just to make sure we were aware. The other piece of correspondence I have is that we did receive a notification from Harpersfield Township of a tax increment financing proceeding. I emailed that to the board and I provided it here at the meeting, and I would like to just discuss this, to kind of defer this to other. So listing it under correspondence, but if we could have a little discussion of this under other.
Agenda modifications?
Yes, we do have a few agenda modifications for tonight's meeting. There's a correction to 4E. I'm sorry, 4C. There's an addition to 4D, number 6. And there was a late addition. This was not added to your agenda modification sheet. There's a late addition to number 7, if you'd like to write in. It's the same name that is in number 8, Denise J. Turkis, who also will be under the Adult Substitute Secretary and Educational Assistant. There's a modification for 4D number 8 and 4D number 9. There's a new number 6, old 6, 7, and 8 now become 7, 8, and 9. That concludes the agenda modification.
Okay, at this time we have the first hearing of the public. So if there's anyone that would like to say something, we need you to state your name and address for the record. Okay. That brings us to the treasurer's financial report, or excuse me, approval of the minutes. Discussion?
I'll just note a change to page 12. There's a typo on the third paragraph, second sentence, where I mentioned that this is a tough decision. It says touch decision. I don't want to think of COVID-19 was touching.
Roll call.
Mr. Arndt, Mr. Dana,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher, Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
and Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes. And that brings us to the treasurer's financial report.
Move to accept.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Dana,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher, Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz,
Yes.
and Mr. Arndt.
Approval of the invoices.
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Fisher, Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Arndt, and Mr. Dana.
Yes.
Informational?
You do see a donation listed there, a Rifton prone stander valued at $500 used, and it came from Pamela Gribbins, and it's for the use of students in the Geneva School District.
Very nice. The legislative report?
Yes. The Ohio Department of Health issued an order on September 3rd requiring reporting and notification regarding COVID-19 cases in the K-12 schools. The order requires all K-12 schools to maintain a reporting system for parents to report positive tests and/or cases of COVID, and encourages parents to begin notifying the schools no later than 24 hours after receiving the COVID diagnosis. Within 24 hours of becoming aware of a student, teacher, staff member, or coach who has tested positive or been diagnosed with COVID, schools are required to report the existence of the cases in writing to the parents or guardians of all students who share classroom space or have participated in a school activity during the student, teacher, staff, or coach's COVID infectious period. To all parents or guardians of students at the school building, notifying them of the positive test result, which can be provided via email or posted on the district's website and can be consolidated if necessary, and to the school district's local Department of Health. The order encourages school districts to use the website dashboards to inform the school community of the number of COVID cases and the number of students and staff isolated or quarantined if this information is known. Protected health information must remain private, and only non-identifying information should be made available to the public. In addition to notification and reporting requirements, the school districts also are required to name a COVID-19 coordinator to facilitate case information reporting and provide the individual's name and contact information to the school's local health department. The United States Department of Agriculture extended the summer meal program to allow operators to continue serving free meals to all children through the end of this year. The extension of the flexibilities within this program means that the Geneva schools can now offer all students ages 1 through 18, including those that live in our community but do not have students currently enrolled in our schools, to receive free breakfast and lunch until the end of the year under the seamless summer option. Every student is encouraged to take advantage of this opportunity to receive free meals. Breakfast and lunches are offered to all students schooling in the buildings and can also be picked up at the school buildings daily for the remote learners or the hybrid students on the days that they are home. The meals can be picked up at the elementary schools from 9:30 to 10:30 and the middle school and high school from 9 to 10. So that is strongly encouraged for our families. Governor DeWine signed House Bill 606 on September 14th, just this week. The bill prohibits bringing a civil action for damages for injury, death, or loss to a person or property against businesses, the state, local governments, and the schools, among others, if the cause is due to exposure to COVID. It is retroactive to March 9th. The bill was amended in conference committee, and the changes include extending the duration of the immunity from the end of this year through September 30th of 2021. Last week, the Ohio Department of Education announced that the 2020 Ohio School Report Cards are expected to be released September 15th, which is yesterday. The report cards will not have grades or ratings due to provisions of House Bill 197 and will not contain data in all report card sections. Some of the data that will be reported includes the graduation rate component, prepared for success component, enrollment, attendance, and absenteeism data. However, the progress component, gap closing component, and most of the achievement component will not have data. In the bills introduced this month, House Bill 756 was introduced on September 1st to permit school districts to employ state licensed substitute teachers for the 2021 school year in accordance with their own set of educational requirements. And Senate Bill 358 was introduced at the end of August to make changes to the education law for the 2021 school year in response to the implications of COVID. Some key provisions of 358, which extend several of the items from House Bill 197 and 164, which we have talked about in the past at meetings, include allowing for teachers and principal evaluations to be completed without the use of student growth measures, provides flexibility for students should they be unable to take the end-of-course exam by allowing them to meet their graduation requirements through the use of the final course grade in the associated class. It eliminates the state-required assessments with the exception of diagnostic assessments and requires the ODE to seek a waiver from administration of all federally required assessments for the 2021 school year. Now, the possibility of that waiver seems unlikely since U.S. Secretary of Education DeVos said education leaders should not expect waivers from federal test requirements to be granted. She defended the federal test requirements in general and stressed the importance of using this data to assess students during the pandemic. It prohibits the ODE from issuing state report cards for this school year and next, and establishes a safe harbor, and gives districts local control in making decisions regarding the promotion of fourth grade, free from the third grade reading guarantee mandates, provides local control in determining if a student is on track for graduation, and finally, it provides an extension of the partial freeze and eligibility for the EdChoice Scholarship Program with minor exceptions. There is the expectation that this bill will be expedited to provide certainty to the education community, and therefore it could be incorporated into another bill further along in the legislative process. It contains an emergency clause that would take effect immediately upon the governor's signature. That concludes the legislative report.
Thank you. The ATEC report.
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
Can't hear you.
APEC played host. Food pantries. Amendments.
Thank you. At this time, we have the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mrs. Ortiz. Each year in September, we look forward to hearing from our building administrators about their opening of their schools and enrollment. And I probably don't even have to say this, but this year was unlike any other. So I'm sure this one will be one that will remain in their memories throughout their entire career. So we're going to begin tonight with Ostenburg Elementary. Mrs. Brzenko was unable to join us tonight, and Mrs. Gustin said that she would share her report.
Good evening, everyone. It is good to be back. My grade level, the number of students that attended September 3rd, and then remote only learners that started on September 8th. You can see the breakdown there. On the next page, Mrs. Brzenko went into detail about her preschool numbers. The preschool students do attend all 4 days. They attend for half days. Their numbers typically start low because students have moved on to kindergarten. At this time, they can't add any typicals because they need to focus on the special needs students to help keep ratios low due to COVID. So you can see Mrs. Meehan's AM group. She has itinerant students that she serves at Redstone or at home. She also has Mrs. Rogaski's numbers listed for AM and PM. There's an online student, and then currently there are 6 special needs students in the planning/testing. So once that testing is completed, then they will look at this. So that should increase their numbers up to 22 students. Move to the 3rd page, and you'll see from each of the principals as we move on tonight. We broke down all of our subgroups. Ostenburg has 56 students on IEPs, 6 students on 504s. They have 18 students that are inter-district from within Geneva, the Geneva Elementaries. 14 students that come out of district. 26 students that attend school out of the Geneva district that opt out. 5 students that are court placed in, and 9 students that are actually court placed out. Sure, go ahead. Typically, I can speak on the GPS numbers. Typically, we get students from Ashtabula. Many of, because Saybrook is so close to GPS, so I know that's where most of my students come from. And I can imagine that she gets many from Saybrook, just because Austinburg is in close proximity there. In terms of students coming in. Going out, I can say, and Mrs. Doherty can speak to this too, we've seen a lot of people go K-12 online, Ohio Virtual Academy. And it is more so this year than in previous years, and you're going to see that through our reports as well. What's new? They do have a new Title I tutor this year, Mrs. Stacy Winchell. Our KRA assessment, our early learning assessment, did have a reduction in questions. I know the kindergarten teachers are very, very pleased with that. All our special education meetings this year are virtual. That's across the district. We are very proud to have all-day kindergarten, but currently the kindergarten students are attending the same amount of time that they would have attended previously, with a half day coming 2 full days instead of the 4 half days. Austinburg is focusing on family engagement resources virtually, supporting families and teachers through the change in virtual learning and the reopening of schools. And we have our new Fusion Science program. She listed grades 3 to 5, but it's actually 3rd through 8th grade, and Mr. Anderson helped keep that out for us. Austinburg is excited to be back. She also wanted to make sure that we gave a special thank you to Mr. Jim Zukowski. He's been on his own cleaning over there the past couple of weeks, and he worked double time just to make sure the building is in ship shape each day. Be sure to thank Mr. Zukowski, as well as all the other staff members. Thank you.
Yes, and there's so many people to thank to get everything off to a great start that if I forget anybody, I so apologize, but everybody has really chipped in to make sure that our start was successful, a lot of planning. I did enjoy working with my 2 colleagues, trying to come up with the elementary portion of our plan. And we worked very hard trying to cover every detail, and we're still evolving every day. So it's just one of those things that you have to be, what did we say, Mr. Kudlow, flexible and adaptable, and we are doing that. And so aren't the kids. The kids were excited to come in. We've been hand sanitizing them like crazy, and they were just happy, I think, in the environment. So our goal was really to make sure that we were trying to keep things as normal as possible. I know it's not normal, but in the sense that we tried to keep our day going and just keep things the same for them that they're familiar with. The first couple days that we didn't have them on the playground, I did have some of this, and I felt horrible. But then, thank you all for getting us the atomizer, because that really helped out with our playground and them being able to go out there and have a little bit more fun. And when they are staying distant, we have to keep reminding them. But masks, they've been doing a great job and just following the safety procedures, because we do announce that our goal is we want everybody back, so we have to really be strict with our procedures. The teachers have been working very hard trying to balance the hybrid and the online students. We're working on that, and I'm trying just to make sure everybody's happy each and every day, which can get difficult at sometimes. So, like I said, so everybody chipped in. I had the custodian and housekeeper. They had all my hallways marked with the 6-foot distance, arrows, flow, posters before I even asked them to do anything. Cafeteria had a plan in place. So bus drivers were helping us tremendously along the shore with getting that ready. And of course, Tom had all supplies for us. And Jared answers all my questions. He's wonderful. So he was helping with all the tech. And I've been trying to get another one of our goals was to because parents were concerned about all the different logins, so we were trying to make sure that ours were similar for all our different platforms that we have. So there was still some couple glitches in there, but we've been working on that. I wanted to do it hopefully for the whole district, but I just ran out of time when they allow you to do it. And so the chair, Mr. Brigard, is thinking we're trying to plan for next year for that as well. So then I have my enrollment numbers here, as you can see. And they're pretty similar. Our remote is on the end, as is our online students. You'll see with our units, I do have 4-day attendance. Mr. Horvath did develop a flow chart and a plan in order to see who could qualify for the 4 days, and our students did. And so they do attend every day except Wednesday. I did include Head Start in there because they are becoming a bigger part of our building. We do help them. Cafeteria helps them. We are cleaning up with their area as well. And they are all, I called and asked them, they are all future Geneva students. So they're getting the right start there. And then breaking it out into detail, special education, we have 46 students on IEPs, 504s are 7, and open enroll in is 20, so they're coming in from another district, and out is 16, so at least our in is higher than our out. And inter-district between building is 16, and court placed in is 4. Staffing changes. So a brand new employee, we have Mr. Mark Batista. He used to sub for us, and now he's working with us as a Title I tutor. We are so excited. He works so well with the staff. And here's a little excerpt on him, so it's very interesting. Following 15 years in the business and financial worlds in New York City and witnessing the tragedy of 9/11, Mark, Mr. Batista, decided to return to school and pursue a career in education. He graduated magna cum laude from Ohio Dominican University in Columbus, Ohio. While in his senior year there, he was initiated into the membership of Kappa Delta Pi, the International Honor Society in Education, founded in 1911. After commencement, Mark spent several years in Columbus, Ohio, serving as both a Title I tutor and third-grade teacher to a predominantly inner-city Hispanic community. Later, he returned to Northeast Ohio in order to care for an elderly family member. Mark has served the Geneva School District for the last 4 years as a long-term substitute teacher for the 3 elementary schools. And Mark is excited to be part of the Cork family. I wanted to share all that because he comes with a very impressive resume, I feel, and he will really have a lot to offer our students and help with our staff. Someone not new to the district but new to Cork is Miss Pamela Miller. She is a licensed intervention specialist, and she has a very, predominant or very impressive resume as well. She taught at Geneva Middle School for 12 years, part-time phys ed, part-time special ed. She spent the last 2 years teaching in the ED unit, students with emotional difficulties. Her past accomplishments include working for Happy Hearts for 15 years, and she also taught in the Jefferson School District prior to coming to Geneva. As you can see, she joins the Cork team with a wealth of knowledge and experience, along with a compassionate approach to teaching and working with our students. So she's been a wonderful addition as well. And then we have Miss Brenda Cork. She's our housekeeper. She would not share any information with me. But like I said, she stepped right in. She's working along well with Mr. Buzz and seems to be enjoying the job and wants to stay busy and help out. And then I think the last is just new this year, and Mrs. Dustin already shared that with you. A lot of things are new. I mean, that list is not exhaustive. We're all learning everything and just trying again to do our very best each and every day. So I thank everybody that's helping out with that, and I know the students appreciate it both in school and online. Thank you.
little confused here. You have that our total enrollment is 250 or 271, and then looking at our Geneva area schools, and it says it's 256. What am I missing?
I added the Head Start after because we do a lot with them, so that brings that up. Okay, that's why I explained the Head Start with that.
So, and this may be more of a question here for Eric, but it seems like we've lost more in the enrollment from Augsburg, and that's a significant difference here. 53 students here. Why are we having that trend? It seems like the trend, we're losing more students from Augsburg and Forth, but in particular from Augsburg. Is there a reason for that, or?
I'm going to share a little bit with. I wanted the principals to get through their report. I'm going to share a little bit with the total enrollment for the district, which I also provided, and share a couple of those thoughts as why we may be losing some of those students. So I'll wait until the principals are done, and I will address that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, back to GPS. If you look at the second page, it does give the enrollment numbers for GPS. Our enrollment is down from last year. We had 454 students when we finished the year. My last count was 419, but I do continue to receive enrollment emails from Mrs. Horvath, so she is still enrolling students daily. So these numbers will increase over time. So we're down probably around 30 at this point in time, but we should close that gap a little bit more in the coming weeks as people start to feel a little more safe and start to want to return to school. So you can see how many students we have attending with Group A, 141 of the student population. Group B, 151 students. If you look in parentheses there, I did put the number of students attending 4 days. And those are some of our students that are in the units, or they have an IEP where they're more in the general education classroom, but it benefits them to attend the 4 days. And then you can see the remote learners there, 136 students that attend remotely. So you can see how basically it's a third almost. And that kind of worked out on its own. Some families had some like later in the alphabet requested to come with Group A and vice versa, just depending on their child's care. And we try to work with people. Some families started out remotely, and then they decided they really do want to come to school. They heard things were going well, so we allow them to do that. We've made that transition, and our teachers have been extremely flexible with that, as well as transportation. If you look at the next page, it does break down our numbers based on our subgroups. 77 students are on IEPs. 4 students, they still attend Geneva schools, but they attend another educational placement. We have 18 students that have 504s, 22 Geneva students that come to us from either Cork or Augsburg. And again, that can be staff members too that say they live in a Cork or Augsburg part of the district and they prefer to bring their students with them to work at GPS. We have 41 students that come out of district, and many of those students are from Ashtabula. 22 students that go out of district, 12 students that are court placed in, and 18 students that are court placed out. GPS had a significant amount of staffing changes since last spring. With the addition of the 3 full-time kindergarten positions, all those positions were filled by teachers from GPS. Mrs. Dodd chose to stay with us, so she got the first full-time kindergarten position in our building. Mrs. Stewart retired from teaching 5th grade, so that moved people around. And then with the passing of Mrs. Early, again, that opened up another position and some more movement. So Miss Leak from Cork joined us. Her sister, Mrs. Ford, joined us from Cork, where she held that position previously 2 years ago, teaching 1st grade. Helene Moore joined us from Augsburg. Nicole Nelson previously taught 3rd grade at GPS, now she's teaching 2nd grade. Amanda Cram, who was previously the district ESL teacher, is now teaching 3rd grade along with Elizabeth Carrier, who was previously an intervention specialist in our building. Mrs. Myers took a big jump from 1st grade to 5th grade. And Kayla Koss joined us from the middle school, and she's not going back. I'm not letting Mr. Anderson take her back. He really wants it to happen. We also have 3 new employees to the district. Stephanie McNeil joins us as a Title I tutor, and I'll talk about her in a minute. Anthony Cardeman is now our district ESL teacher, also known as Buddy. And Aaron Drenick is serving as our speech and language pathologist for GPS and GMS. Oh, yeah, and Missy stole Mrs. Cinco from me. She didn't want to bring that up. And then Mrs. Waring went to Austinburg, too, from GPS, where she originally taught first grade. We have many of the same new things going on in all the elementaries. I do want to point out that Mrs. Cheryl Ramsey did a Wonders online Zoom class for the district elementary teachers when we kicked off the year. We spent a lot of time with that new program last year in terms of getting the students online. And she did a nice job when we transitioned to remote learning last spring. So we used her as a resource this year to start the year. And also Mrs. Joy Linald is getting her administrative license right now through Cleveland State. And she's been doing weekly Google Classroom help sessions for teachers in the district every Wednesday at 8:15. So a big thank you to all the GPS teachers for all they've done to be flexible to Care to Start, our cleaning staff, our secretarial staff, and our SNAs. So I'm going to do a little bio on each of our new employees. I'll start with Anthony, our buddy Cardeman, who graduated from Geneva High School in 2015. Then he attended Lakeland Community College for 2 years, and after 3 years, finally finished his degree at Ohio University. This is his first teaching job, and in parentheses he put, "What a year to start." And I enjoy using my experiences and knowledge to help coach the boys soccer team at the high school. He's great to have around. He has a lot of excitement. He connects well with all our families. If we need help translating anything, he speaks fluent Spanish. So, again, another great addition right now. We also have Erin Drenick, who did some of her field work at Cork Elementary previously, so Missy knows her fairly well. She's originally from North Dakota and moved to Reynoldsburg, Ohio, near Columbus while in high school. She received her undergraduate degree from The Ohio State University and is a graduate degree from the University of Akron. Her husband Christopher and her just celebrated their 6th anniversary this past May, and they live on an old dairy farm. She enjoys gardening, cooking, hiking, reading, and traveling are some of her interests. She enjoys working with kids and being part of a team. So she's grateful for the opportunity to work in the school district where her husband grew up. We're very excited to have Erin join us. Again, bad timing for our new employees. We're all a little stressed right now. So we're trying to stay calm and be welcoming. Stephanie McNeil, our third new hire for GPS. She actually started subbing with us last year before the pandemic. We actually got to see her work in action, and she did a fabulous job for us. So when these positions became available, I had her in mind from the start. She graduated from Ashtabula High School in 1995. She attended State Ashtabula and Lake Erie College. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. She taught first grade for 6 years and served as a Title I teacher with Ashtabula. She eventually decided to stay home when she had her son 4 years ago. And then she decided to sub right before COVID last year. What a time to come back. She also has a daughter that attends GMS, where she's an honor student and a cheerleader. So we're glad to have Stephanie with us here in Geneva. Thank you.
Before I get rolling, I had a couple messages come through that the audio is not working the best for our online viewers. I'm not sure if the mic can be turned up or anything, Mr. Marcazone. Thank you. Just to start off, thanks everybody. Welcome to the 2021 school year. I'm going to start off with staffing changes at Geneva Middle School. We had quite a few of them this year. I have to shout out all of our central office staff. We actually dropped off bagels and pastries because we had so many staffing changes at the end of August. So big shout out to them, and thank you for helping us get everything in order to start the year. I'll start with our new school nurse, Emily Ball. She's going to be working at Geneva Middle School and Geneva High School. Very positive addition. She's a Geneva High School alumni, currently serving as a registered nurse. Geneva Middle School and Geneva High School. She graduated from Notre Dame College with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She gained experience as a nurse assistant and a registered nurse in the pediatric float pool at UH Rainbow Babies and Children Hospital since 2016. and she currently lives in Euclid, Ohio. So welcome to Emily. Next, we also have listed there Buddy Cardeman, very positive addition there as well. It's nice to have someone in the district that speaks fluent Spanish and can help us with translation when needed. The next person we have here is Sarah DiGeronimo. She comes to us from Willowick, Ohio. She's 25 years old and previously worked at Lake Erie Speedway and Concessions. She's also had a couple jobs at Lake County Daycare Services. She was a customer server at Panini's in Willoughby. She worked at a grocery store and subbed at a couple elementary schools in Pennsylvania prior to coming to us. We asked all of our teachers to give us a couple of little tidbits about their lives, and she cracked us up with a little joke that she likes long strolls on the beach and watching the sunset with her dog. So we really appreciate her, and she's going to fit in just fine here at Geneva Middle School. Next, we also listed Erin Drenick, who is our new speech and language pathologist. Julie did introduce her to everybody earlier. We have Stephanie Keller serving as an 8th grade long-term language arts and developmental reading teacher. She's in place for Mr. Noble, who's still out. She grew up in Trumbull County. She was actually a student of Mr. Mollahan's previously, and she currently lives in Chardon. She has a Bachelor of Science in Middle Childhood Education from Kent State University, and she is a first-year teacher looking forward to coming up with creative ways to encourage the love of reading and writing for future leaders of our community. Next on our list is John Mattoon. He's our school and community liaison. He'll be working between all of the 5 schools in our district. He came to us last year to fill in as a substitute as a school counselor, and then came into this role this year. He's a retired teacher from Twinsburg. He resides in Geneva on the Lake, and again, everybody on the list this year, a really positive addition. Next, we have returning to us this year, Annette Millard. You may recognize that name. She did serve as a tutor and a teacher in our district in the past. Took a short hiatus to go over to the Hershey School in Pennsylvania and spent some time as a real estate appraiser in Columbus prior to coming back home to us at Geneva Middle School. So very happy to have her back on board with us as well. Next on the list, we have Cora Opachny. She's a 2020 Geneva High School graduate, and she has come on board to be a housekeeper for us at the middle school this year. We also have coming over from Geneva High School this year, Elizabeth Paskey. She was the art teacher first year in the district last year, did a great job for Mr. Weatherholt, and then when he restored his position, she was able to come down and work for us. We also have returning again, you may recognize the name, Rebecca Ritalik. She did work in Geneva previously as a tutor as well. Spent some time at Lakeside High School and worked a little bit in Jefferson. She is also a Geneva graduate, class of 2011. So she's very, very happy to be back home again as well. Last on the list we have is Heather Rice. Heather Rice is our new music teacher. She comes to us most recently from Pontiac High School and Middle School. Prior to that, she worked at Lakeside as well. And she received her Bachelor's of Music Education from the University of Mount Union. We're really happy to have her on board. She's doing some things at the high school as well with Mr. Trident with the band and marching band, so on and so forth. Just going to go into a few things in the enrollment report here with you. I have a few thank yous to shout out, and then Mr. Mollahan will make some comments on our opening. You see here, we do have students ranging from grade 4 to 10 on our enrollment report. Again, we are, as you know, we're a 6, 7, 8 building. The reason the numbers go 4 to 10 is because we do have some students in our DB unit that are in the lower grade levels. As you'll see, we are down 24 students in enrollment from last year. We did send a class of around 189 up to the high school, and our incoming class for 6th grade was 178, so that does account for some of the number. But we did have a little bit of a drop in enrollment there, but not too big at all. Going on to the next page. We currently have in the building 78 students on an IEP, 39 on a 504. We do have the 3 units at the middle school, our developmentally disabled unit, which there's 8 students, our emotionally disturbed unit, which has 6, and our intellectually disabled students, which we have 10. We do have 24 students going out for open enrollment. A lot of those students are going to Madison, but we do have 40 coming back in. So we do have more going coming back in than we do have going out. We also have 13 student support placed into the district. A few things that I'd like to make comments on. I just want to make a few notes of thanks to people that have worked and gone above and beyond. Big thank you to Eric and Brett for working through some challenging situations with us to start this school year. Also want to thank our other administrators in the district. Our 3 elementary principals worked very closely together, and Mark and I were able to weasel our way into a couple of their meetings by bringing them lunch, and then they returned the favor. And it's really nice to network and work with them. And as you know, we work very closely with the high school administrators on a lot of topics. Also need to thank Jared Brigard for all of our technology things. As you know, this COVID setup that we have going on right now has required a lot of additional technology needs, and he has really gone above and beyond, putting in 12 and 14-hour days to make sure that everything's taken care of. In that same boat, we also have Tom Currents and his sidekick Dave Wright, who've done everything they can to get our facilities prepared and make sure that everything is in good shape, setting us up with the sanitation dispensers, and also making sure our fields are lined and our athletic facilities are all set up. Also want to thank our middle school athletic events coordinator, Corinne, to my left here. She always makes sure that our athletics are in order, and it was quite a challenge to get rolling with that this year with making sure we are approved with the health department. As always, Mrs. Horvath and Mrs. Desmaris at the middle school, keeping us in line and making sure that everything's up to par. We also have Louie, Kristen, Cora, and Donna that we have at the middle school in our custodial and cleaning capacities. Miss Ball shared with me tonight we had Berkshire in for a volleyball game. One of the parents on their way out said to her, "Hey, I just want to say thank you. You have one of the cleanest, nicest facilities we've been in, and we appreciate that coming in." So I just wanted to share that. That's a great compliment to receive. As always, every year, I always have to shout out Shar. Our transportation system works really well, and we appreciate how organized she is, and we can rest assured knowing that all of our kids are going to get on the right bus at the end of the day and head home. And last but not least, all of our teachers and support staff have been very flexible and gone above and beyond to make education fantastic so far this year, and we're up and rolling. So Mr. Mollahan just has a couple comments on our opening.
Hello and good evening, everybody. Without being too redundant and repeating a lot of things that everybody has said, there are a ton of thank yous that need to go out to make the opening as successful as it was. I'm somebody typically that even as a veteran teacher who was in the classroom for 17 years, I was somebody who'd always get nervous the night before the first day of school. Even last year as administrator first year, and this year, with this being my second year, I also was extremely nervous. A lot of it is just anxiety and just excitement, and I think this year, for a lot of reasons that we all have been aware of since probably March, this start has been unlike any other. But I can tell you, I felt completely relieved, comfortable, and felt like a little kid on Christmas morning watching kids walk through our building for the first time. It provided me with a sense of enthusiasm that I didn't think I could have more of. It brought a feeling of relaxation and being comfortable. And I think the kids, even with everybody with masks on, the kids as well, you could tell there was a sense of relief to be in the building. And we could not have had any smoother of a beginning than what we've had. Students have been extremely well behaved. I had rehearsed what my phone call to parents would be if we had students who were not in compliance in terms of wearing masks. I can tell you there has not been one single discipline issue of any kind. Now, granted, we are in the beginning of the year. However, yes, knock on wood. However, though, with as much of debate that's going on in the world socially about various things, it's not making our way into the building. And, that's a testament to not just what we have put in, what you guys have put in at the state level, our parents, our teachers. Everybody truly has been together. Even with having some differences, everybody's still coming together to make education, to make school here be as fantastic as it can be. And quite honestly, at least in middle school, it has been absolutely perfect. The teachers have also been fantastic. We joked earlier about, like Mr. Kujala talking about being adaptable and being flexible. Our teachers have taken that mantra on. What we preach, what I preach in staff meetings is that the only way we can fail as educators this year and any year is if we are unwilling to step out of our comfort zone and if we're unwilling to try new things. And our teachers have taken that on full force. Teachers who have technology concerns, teachers who have been nervous and have been apprehensive about trying different things, everybody is doing that. And I think that is why, minus some glitches here and there, it's not by lack of effort. So everybody's been willing to be adaptable and flexible to make everything as good as it possibly can be for our community. In terms of technology, obviously with the devices that are not here yet, we have been very creative in terms of how we can utilize our devices. All of our completely online kids have all received devices. They've all been accounted for. We've been working on a plan to make sure that our students who are hybrid also will have those needs for when they are not inside the building. Mr. Anderson, again, I'm very fortunate to work with this guy. He's done a lot of fantastic things. I've learned a great deal from him. And the way that he's kind of tackled our technology concerns in our building, and we are currently developing a plan that not only will we can get devices into the hands of our hybrid students who need them, but also for when our hybrid students, both A and B scheduled kids, when they come into the building, being able to put a device in their hands that they then can take with them throughout the school day. So again, it goes back to the idea of being adaptable and being flexible. Our building has accepted the idea of playing nicely and sharing and coming together and finding a way that we can get all the tech needs that we need until reinforcements arrive. We're getting our tools in the hands of the people who need it, which has been really good. Again, there's so many things that need to go around, but it's truly a blessing to work in this district. Again, coming from a small school, immediately there's that big family atmosphere, and it's easy sometimes in a small school, but I have felt that and then some, being in this district. And seeing the way that everybody has come together and trying to make sense and to make positive things come out of these horrible things that are going on, just reinforces the idea that this is a fantastic school, it's a great community, and I'm sure I could speak for most everybody here that's very fortunate to be here and it's just great seeing kids inside the building. I think I'll end it with that.
I think I'm going to start where he left off. I want to thank a lot of people tonight. Jared Brigard has done a tremendous job for the district. I don't know if he can ever be replaced. How he as a one-man crew goes around and tries to meet every building's needs, all 5 buildings. He's very available. He's here late at night trying to make that happen. So I'd like to thank him. We were short about 100 Chromebooks, but he managed to go through the district and produce those 100 Chromebooks for our online kids to make sure that they can at least have the technical support that they need. So I want to thank Jared. I also want to thank Tom and Dave for all their hard work. Last year we were in a very unique situation with graduation, which was done in front of high school. I know I'm going back a little bit. But I was looking outside the door on Thursday, out my window on Thursday, and it's raining out, and there I see Tom and Dave out in the rain putting up the stage. And I went out and talked to him and said, "You guys don't have to put this up in the rain." And the response I got from Tom was, "You told me you wanted this up on Thursday. It's Thursday." And they worked in the rain to get that up. They tore bushes out in front of the school, put new trees in front of the school, so that when we had graduation last year, it was spectacular up there, and the view was wonderful. They planted grass and did all that. I know that's last year, but it was part of this whole process that we've been through. He's taking care of all kinds of PPE for us. He was in the building today. You see we have stands out with Pharrell and things that nature through the building. He walked through the building with me today, going from room to room. Where do I want the stands for the coffees put in? But the one thing when I'm spending that time with him that always goes through my head, I'm one building out of 5. So I know every time him and Dave are doing those things, they're visiting other buildings and they're having to meet all those needs too. They've done a tremendous job being on the spot with your needs, trying to make sure you can keep moving forward. So I want to thank them. I want to thank the middle school. These 3 people in front of me, Corinne, Alex, and Mark. When we pulled off graduation last year, they were set forth with the task to number their parking lot, which we used removable paint. But their parking lot's still numbered as of today. It's still there for memory's sake. But they managed to line up 220 kids at the middle school to start the parade that ended up at the high school in exact order in which we had the boxes stacked up on the stage, which was an incredible feat because if they mess up their end, our end is totally messed up. So I did need to reach out to them and thank them. And I wanted to thank their staff too, because there was tons of volunteers there helping out, making sure people got in their spots there to move us forward. I thought it's great teamwork, great effort by everybody kicking in and making sure we can move forward. Ann Craig, Bill Pletcha, Mary Allison, Gail Brooks. This building has never been cleaner. I cannot say how much they've gotten done. Thank them enough for what they have gotten done. We had a scenario in the building where when the nurse decides that maybe someone has COVID and we're going through the procedure and they got to leave the building, every area in which that child was at has to be cleaned. The ladies came to me right away and says, we got it. Tell me where we're going and we got it. They didn't hesitate. They put themselves in those scenarios, trying to make sure we can keep the building over and keep things moving forward. So I really want to thank them. And the building has not been clean in years. They've done a great job. The students in the building, I can't say anything that these guys haven't said. They've been spectacular. We're not fighting with them about masks. We're not fighting with them about directions in the hallways. We're not fighting with them about anything. They're just cooperating. I think they want to be back. I think they want their friends back. I think they want to be back 5 days a week if they can have that. I know that we got very fortunate the other day because we're in this hybrid situation that we had a scenario in which the health department let me bring students back because they social distanced, they stayed away from each other, and they wore their masks. So they've been nothing but cooperative, and I want to thank them. I want to thank my teachers in the building for how flexible they've been and how much they've worked with me. We worked on our building plan over the summer, trying to get ready for how we were going to do things. What's lunch going to look like? What's the hallways going to look like? Every aspect that you could think of, we went through. I had 7 teachers on my committee, and I would send them an email on Thursday saying we're meeting on Wednesday, and they would all show up. They did that 7-10 times with me to go through this document so that we could cover every possible base we could to start the year off. I wanted to thank them. I also want to thank them for how much they volunteer their time to come sort books, to come sort whatever paperwork we need so that we can get things organized for the other students before school started. I really appreciate all they've done. Let's talk a little bit of numbers. It's in your report. I'm not going to go through the whole report, but a couple things I want to talk about. We have 183 students online right now. That's going to be about 25% of the student body chose the online option. We have 236 students in Group A and 238 students in Group B. We have a little bit of a new program where we let everybody that had study halls in the morning and the afternoon come in and out as they please. We had 48 students take advantage of that to try to delay how many kids we have coming in or leaving the building at any given time to try to break that up. We had 48 students do that. The sad number that I'm going to reference, which isn't in your folder, we have 52 students that we are looking for right now. And I want to thank Officer Cooper, because Officer Cooper's taking the list and going to their houses to find out why they're not logging in, why they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we are accounting for every one of our students. If we have to go find them, we're going to go get them and figure out how we can get them educated too. The ACT data that's in your packet, we performed again about the state average across the board. We tend to do fairly well in that every year. Our AP courses, which you have 2, our numbers were a little down this year, and I hope to get them up next year. We did do, when we looked at some of the numbers, we did do a couple teacher changes to see if teacher instruction and what was going on in that classroom could not maybe change what was happening. I would really like to thank Mr. Robert McCoy. I don't know if the board realizes how much that young man has done for this district in the past year. From the moment COVID struck, we had a graduation that was phenomenal. A lot of that is contributed to Robert McCoy and what he did with the media side of it, with working with WKKY, how he broadcasted it, how he pre-recorded speeches, and how he pre-recorded mine about 5 times and kept changing my verbiage because I kept messing it up. And he edited, and he did that for everybody. What he did there was spectacular. I don't know if you caught Channel 8 News the other day. There was a video on Channel 8 News for homecoming. He was told, we're going to do homecoming in some sense. We can't do our whole homecoming. There will be no dance. We can't bring these kids together. How are we going to let them know they're on homecoming? He threw together in one day a video which started with Mr. Markajon started, and he had us decorated up in different outfits that he did electronically, and he did a rollout for a homecoming. They got picked up on YouTube and picked up by Channel 8, but they actually did a story on Geneva and how we accomplished that because they thought it was such a great idea. He's live streaming our games. He's making stickers for the buildings. He's making banners for all the buildings. He's doing all those things. So I really wanted to give a shout out to Mr. McCoy for all he's done for this district. Sometimes it goes unnoticed. He just does it in the background. His biggest thing he says to me is, how can I help you here? How can I make this a little easier on you? He doesn't want to change what you're doing. He doesn't want to do any of that. He just wants to be helpful. Louis D. Jesus. I want to thank Louis D. Jesus from Third Dimension in the Box Company. He has donated partitions for all our students. There is one on the desk I put up there. If you open that up, it's a trifold, and there's a screen in the front. Every student received 2 of those. The high school received theirs already. The elementary school and middle school, they're predicted to be here next week sometime. This was about a $50,000 project that Louis D. Jesus and his company did for us for free. So that if that's that one extra layer of protection, that if a student wants it, and classroom teachers want it, it's available to them to make people feel safe and more comfortable being in the classroom. So I want to give a shout out to Louis D. Jesus. I also want to thank the board and Eric. These are very trying times, very stressful times. Everybody is on edge. And I want to thank you guys for your leadership and for allowing us to do our jobs and for allowing us to make decisions. And we've made mistakes, and I get it. We all made mistakes. But that's been done with your support and getting us back to where we want to be and where we need to be. So I wanted to thank you for letting us have the opportunity to bring these kids back into the building. So thank you. I'm done.
Very good.
Excuse me, before we go on, I'm getting text that we're having still difficulty with the people listening being able to hear. Okay. Okay. They said the volume is getting better, but the words are muffled, so I'm not quite sure what can be done for that.
Before we move on, first of all, they said a lot of the thank yous, but thank you to all the building administrators, Mr. Horvath. I mean, I could go on and on tonight with thank yous. We have all worked well together. We've had to adjust a lot. There's been question after question after question, and sometimes I had answers. Sometimes I said, let's talk about that tomorrow, or let's get everyone together and talk about that further. I've talked about flexibility and adaptability, and sometimes I've said, this is my first pandemic, and I'm guessing it's yours. And we look at each other and we start to try to discuss what we're going to do. But the administrators have been wonderful, and they did a lot of work. We kind of came up with our basic plan, our umbrella for the district, and then they fit all of their needs for their particular buildings into that. And again, I couldn't ask for a harder working group, so I really do appreciate that. And then, again, our employees are all of our teachers, all of our classified employees have really stepped up, and it's difficult. There's fear, there's concern, there's the unknown, and I think everyone, despite some of the things that we had to worry about, realized that we have to work together for the benefit of our students. And the plan came out a little later, There were adjustments being made up to today. We were still making adjustments for some of our clinic procedures, working closely with the health department. And again, we're going to continue to adjust, and that's one of the things that we talked about. We're going to have to continue to adjust because as things change, we're going to make changes. So again, a big thank you to all of our teachers, all of our staff, all of our administrators. It takes a team, and I believe that's what we have here in Geneva, and that truly brings that sense of pride back to me. I also gave you a handout for our enrollment. There's a few numbers differences. You probably realize that maybe if you were looking at both. Some of that has been that with our hybrid plan, our A and B plan, we were trying to adjust numbers a little bit for some of those groups so that we could try to keep them as even as we could. Some parents were accommodating to that. Some we couldn't change, so there are some smaller groups on certain days. But our teachers are also doing the online instruction and instruction for the other hybrid group that's not in session. One of the reasons for that is we want that flexibility so that students can transition back into school if necessary. And we've had that happen already, where we've had some students that they really believed that online would be what they wanted to do, then heard the safety precautions that we had set up in our schools, how we were operating, and said, I don't have a concern about the safety. If I go in and wear my mask and I can sanitize and I know that my class size is going to be small and they're going to keep me distant, they didn't have that concern. So they, rather, instead of being online, wanted to come back in the hybrid group, at least in either the A or B group. So we have had some adjustments. We continue to have new registrations. So we're looking at additional students that are coming into the district and again trying to get them into our group, either a hybrid A, hybrid B, or online. But you can see in the last page I did put that we have lost a number of students from last year in the October information that I posted, the enrollment data, compared to right now with the enrollment data that I posted. Some of that has been we have lost some students to charter schools. Maybe parents felt that they wanted to be in an online program for the full year, that maybe we wouldn't be in an online program. Eventually we'd come back full, and maybe they felt more secure with a program that was already established. That was another reason we decided to use our teachers, because I don't think anyone going to do it better than our teachers, especially if we're trying to reach those students. And those students have the hope and desire to come back to our building at some point. We lost more to home education. Typically we have about 60 regular families that take home education as their choice. This year we had 85 that chose home education. Now, there may be varying reasons, and we're going to reach out to our home education students and families. We're going to reach out to our online families. And now that the dust has settled a little bit and we started the year, and as Mr. Mollahan said and a couple of the other principals said, once we got students in the building, there was a sigh of relief, because you did feel like there was a little normalcy to the year. But now that that dust has settled and we had our 2 opening days, which I went around on the second day and I said I don't think we had anyone to ever experience that first day jitter and trying to sleep. And then we had that Wednesday off for the cleaning day, and then we had first day jitters because we had hybrid B in. So again, a brand new year for all of us. But we're going to reach out to all those families that either have opened and rolled out, that have gone to a different online source, have decided to home educate, and ask that reason why. What were they concerned about? The fear, the safety procedures that we might have in our school? What might happen that we may be switching our plan, or the plan wouldn't be adjusted to them? Was it more concern that they didn't feel confident with what we could provide as an online education student? So we're going to reach out to those families. We're going to try to find that information out. Again, with the desire that we would like to see those students return. And I know all the schools have faced this. As I talk with other superintendents, some families, depending on how they felt about what plan might fit their needs the best, what plan they thought was the safest, what plan might meet their demands because of their own work schedule, their own family life. Sometimes they adjusted because of that. So again, we're going to reach out to those families and hopefully find out why we lost those families this year and encourage them that we want to see them back. We want to see them here in Geneva. So we will be doing that. I will be sharing with the board here probably in next month. Hopefully some of those preliminary results. But again, it's hard to explain why you lost students. There's a lot out there, and again, I think there's many factors that we'll have to look at. But I think until we get that information back from families, it's kind of an unknown right now. But I did want to share that with the board.
I'll just throw out one of my concerns is about the percentage. So when you have GPS that loses under 5%, and then you have Austin that loses almost 20% or over 20%, that's the concern. I just don't understand why there's that reduction among especially our elementary. I mean, I expected the drop off, but wow, that's just significant there in one of us.
And we'll work to try to find that information out, and hopefully the parents will be able to respond and shed some light on to the reasons why they chose what they chose. You're welcome. Anything else? Again, thank you to the administrators. I appreciate all your hard work and the way that you helped to pick up here. And Mr. Horvath, thank you again for everything you did, especially in the area of special education.
I recommend approval of the appropriations as presented for fiscal year 2021. Discussion?
These are, Mr. Arndt, these are functions that are set up in the Uniform School Accounting System. Regular instruction just refers to your regular teachers, grade 1 through 12 subject matters at the middle school and high school. Special would be special education. So that would include Well, if you're just looking at those two, yes, there are other instructions there. You see vocational instruction, the 1300. You see other instruction. However, a lot of that, the big amounts there, are actually money that is going outside of the district for open enrollment and workplace, non-special education students, and so on. But yes, we have a high population of special education students. This includes gifted, ESOL, and special education, all under that function. Do you have a number right now of total special education students?
As I recall, didn't we also, when Happy Hearts closed, didn't we took a hit on our budget with respect to that, as I recall. And we actually had an increase in enrollment here with respect to those line items. And that was a decision that I recall that we made at prior board meeting, and I think it was the right thing to do from which to fund this.
So, Mr. Horvath, you said that the students that fall under that category tend to stay with us. So if I go back to the chart that Eric shared with us that says we lost 172 students in enrollment from 19 to 20, that 172 students fell under the regular instruction, not the special instruction? Okay.
But there were students though who made the decision here to join the Geneva School District once Happy Hearts closed, because we were providing excellent services. I understand that. I'm just saying when that had closed though, we saw a significant. I recall, I could be wrong on this. I recall that we did have an increase though in students. I remember there was a hit on the budget.
But as Mr. Horvath pointed out, that hit has been greatly reduced. First, we get, with the arrangement through the DD and the ESC, we get the state money as a credit to what would have been our full cost if we had to take everything. And now, beginning in January, with the collection of the levy that was passed through the school finance district that was set up for that, we began receiving credits for that money from the ESC, so that really this school year, we should see little or no cost directly for that. It should be covered by the levy and by the state fund.
So the 2 years prior.
The only cost that isn't currently covered is our transportation costs, which we are transporting most of those kids anyway. But if we have to send a student out of our district to another unit because we don't have room, then we're bearing the full cost of that transportation currently. The hope is eventually, once they see that costs are covered, then they will start covering transportation costs, not just for us, but all the districts in the county. You see on your appropriation resolution in that 1,200 special instruction that Mr. Arndt pointed out, the purchase service line is almost $1.6 million. And if you recall, over the years, I've reported to you how these numbers have increased. All right, so that line item represents what Mr. Horvath just touched on, those John Peterson autism scholarships that kids get to go somewhere else, mostly to St. John. They cover the placement of kids that we have going to other units at the Lake County the ESC of the Western Reserve and the ESC of Northeast Ohio, where we don't have a fit for a certain student, and so we place them in a sale program at one of these other outside our district. Those are all the special education purchase service costs, and that line has greatly increased over the years, and it adds to that total special education cost. What Mr. Horvath is referring to. So we have a couple offsets to these costs. That is excess cost billings and for students that we're educating at Geneva that come from other districts, and then catastrophic cost reimbursements that we receive for resident students of Geneva that might be high cost. But like he said, those do not come until a year later. They do not affect the appropriations because they are required to be receipted in as a revenue. So they increase the revenue side. Now, one of the unfortunate things is that with catastrophic costs, they're subject to appropriation. And so currently, I believe, based on what we could have received, according to the applications that we have to file and fill out, we're only getting around 30% of what we are entitled to, because the appropriation by the state is set too low. So it can't cover all the catastrophic cost reimbursement filings for all the districts in the state. Excess cost, we get exactly what we file. So if we have a high-cost student, say from another district that costs $70,000, and they're going to back out the state funding that we get and any of the special education weight, and anything over above that state funding, we're going to receive as a reimbursement the following year. Those show up on your 5-year forecast under tuition from other districts and things like that. So there is some money that we get to offset that cost, I guess is the point.
Anything else? Roll call?
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
And Ms. Fisher?
I recommend the board approve the attached tentative bargaining agreement with GATA effective July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
No.
Mr. Dana?
Abstain.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
And Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Item number 4.
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes. Item number 5.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Item number 6.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I would just note that I'm putting these on here because hopefully the applications will be completed, but none of this money is accessible to us yet. Everyone is in an application status. So we've received our allocation. We know the amount that we're expected to receive. We have to fill out the budget with the state before we can use and spend this money. But hopefully a lot of this will occur before our next board meeting. So we wanted to add this now. And a lot of this just came out in the last week, such as the Broadband Ohio connectivity. The Student Wellness and Success will be receiving our first allocation of this year's grant on our one of our October foundation payments.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Kevin, could you explain what CRF rural and small town SD is?
This is the second round of basically the CARES Act funding. So we received the first round called the ESSER, and that was about $558,000. And this is the second round of that made available by the governor, and they just this is the title of the fund on our CCIP where we have to apply and fill out the application. I think it was targeted more to rural and small towns. But this again can be used for PPE or something that became a cost because of COVID and the pandemic. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
And Mr. Dana?
That brings us to other.
I know Mr. Lillie has something to share during other. I wanted just to mention quickly that Mrs. Metzler brought up that the Ohio School report card was released yesterday. If you pull up the report card, you'll see a lot of NRs on there, so there's no rating. And then as you delve in a little bit, you can see that they do have graduation rates, improving at-risk K-3 readers, and prepared for success. So there's very limited information that's going to be shared. I will be putting some information together for the board, and I will be sending that to you through email. If you want to go on the site again, there's very little information. I'm going to again give you the comparative chart, but it probably won't have the same impact that we've talked about over other years because there was no testing and very limited scores that will be given on this year's report card. But I did want to share that at least I took a look at it, and it is available, and I'll be sharing more through email in that next meeting.
As I pointed out under correspondence, the district received notification from Harpersfield Township about a tax increment financing proceeding. Now, this resolution that I've provided you will not require any action by the Board of Education, because in their request, they're looking at staying within the limits that do not require board approval. So 10 years and 75%. What I am told by Ray Gruber, one of the Harpersfield Township trustees, is in his words, they were looking to set up a rolling TIF. In the words of their attorney, he put it more like a TIF district. So you saw, if you looked at Appendix A that was attached to that paperwork, they've identified undeveloped parcels in all four quadrants around the I-90-534 interchange. The parcels include the parcel there that kind of L-shaped behind McDonald's and Get Go, where the city and township had hoped to develop a hotel and restaurant. That remains undeveloped. Parcels across the street that go out along I-90 and include that commuter lot. They actually have two of the Spire parcels included in here, which one of them especially I think is in competition with the county, because I know that the county has plans for possible abatement or TIF for two hotels on two parcels there. One parcel's not included, the other one is included on this list. A lot of the parcels are south of 90 in areas around Ferrante's and Nordic Air, and then again along 90 behind the Quick Fill and behind Villa 6 Market. So I believe what they're trying to do is establish some sort of district that when and if the time comes that they may look to do development on any of those properties, they can enter into a TIF. And only the improvements, so those properties that are listed on that appendix, what is shown there currently as the value and the tax that we gain, that doesn't go away. It would only be any increase in that value based on improvements to that property. And those improvements that then would be used to finance or pay for any improvements that were made out there by Harpersfield Township, certain infrastructure improvements, whether it be additional sewers, water, utilities, whatever. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, if you have any questions about it.
I do. Because it seems to bounce around, Kevin, meaning it's north on 534 to the FOE. It's south of the river to Old State Road Properties. But then it's over on Bishop. It's over by the commuter parking lot. It just bounced all over the place.
I don't believe any of the properties go south of the river.
Okay.
I mean, I looked them all up. They are all, some of them are along 307, but they don't go beyond that.
Without a plat map, it's hard for us to visualize what this encompasses.
Right. Well, I'll pass this around, but I couldn't get a map on the county auditor, big enough to encompass all of them. So as I went through the list, I wrote down some of the parcels that didn't show on this map, just so I had an idea where they all were. So if you want to pass it down there and then we can pass it back, you can see basically where the parcels are identified based on where they fall just off that map. Did you have any other questions about it?
What about the two properties that are part of Spire? So how does that impact with respect to the pilot?
Well, it doesn't affect the pilot in any way. It's just, remember, there are multiple parcels there. The main parcel involved in our pilot is the parcel that Spire itself is built on.
So these are the parcels.
These are outlying parcels. The The two parcels identified on here would be, as the entrance road, Spire, Cirque Drive, or whatever, snakes through, turns behind Pizza Hut and Wendy's, and then turns east to go back to Spire. The one right on that corner there behind Pizza Hut and behind Wendy's, and then the one behind that basically encompasses the pond, are what are listed here. Now, the one immediately to the north of the one on the corner there is one that I know from the town, talking to Casey Kozlowski at the county, the first hotel that, and I believe you read it in the paper, I mean, it's out there that they have hopes to have two hotels out there. The first one would be on the parcel that is not identified on here, which would be directly to the north of the parcel that is, and again, kind of behind Pizza Hut and to the north of that. And then the second hotel is on that. That puts them in competition. And there's some statute dealing with that. I mean, they'd have to get the county's approval. Well, again, just like us, only if they want to see that. But I think there might be some issues with this. And the reason I brought this up for discussion is, if you would allow me, I would like to reach out to an attorney that I know is considered an expert on TIFs with Ricker and Eckler, and just send him this, ask him to look over this, and make sure that everything is allowable and proper prior to this meeting on Monday, September 28th, which I plan on attending. And if I find information that there's anything out of line with this request, I would seek to talk to the Harpersfield Township trustees prior to that meeting and point those out. Again, they don't need our approval to move forward with a TIF, but I want to make sure that what they're asking, I've looked through applicable statutes, and it just raises some questions that aren't necessarily answered by their attorney or them. I did have a question on this about, there is language that says you can't enter into a TIF on a parcel that's already been TIF'd. However, when I look back on the TIF that occurred out along 307 to bring sewers out to Nordicare and Ferrantes, it was specific to those parcels that those buildings were on. There were only 3 parcels involved, and one, when I try to look it up on the auditor's website, it's no longer listed, so it must have been rolled into another parcel or something.
And it didn't include Bishop Road parcels?
No, it didn't include those. It wasn't named, so the improvements that were made to those properties were not able to be used to help pay off that TIF. And if you recall, in that TIF, well, if you were on the board at the time, we actually received tax incentive donation payments, like a payment in lieu of taxes for that TIF over the span of 7 years. It was a very small amount, about $26,000, I think, a year. Nothing in comparison to the TIF that was done with Save a Lot. But I had some questions about that. I looked it up. They're not the same parcels. But just the fact that, as you pointed out, Mr. Arndt, that these are all over the place. I mean, some of them are contiguous to each other, but they're not all contiguous. They're spread out in those 4 quadrants. And the question of you have to have improvements that benefit the property. There was also a question in my mind, I don't know if it popped up in yours, with the language on page 3, section 4C, that said to reimburse the township or other governmental entity for any funds used by the township or other governmental entity at the request of the township to pay costs of the public improvements or to pay interest or principal or premium on any of the aforesaid notes, bonds, or loans prior to receipt of service payments in lieu of taxes as described in section 3 hereof. I read that. I was wondering if they were going to try to enter into these TIFs and use the money to help pay off the debt that they incurred on putting the sewers out Route 534 to the interchange, which I'm pretty sure you can't do. I mean, because they already proceeded with the work, the improvements were already made. They don't benefit all the properties on here, only a few of them that are along that corridor. And so I don't believe, and that's one of the things I want to check out, as I read, I don't believe they can go back and use that, and I don't know if that's their intention. That's one of the questions I really couldn't get answered. If it was their intention by that language to attempt to pay off that debt, which they moved forward, and we were told that the city and the township, since they did not get the TIF worked out, did not get the development of the hotel and the restaurant that they hoped would finance those changes, that they were going to be paying it out of their JED money or other things. I'm not sure how they're paying off that financing to fund. They did have some grants, but they have money that they have to pay out of their coffers. And that might not be an issue. That might not be their intention. But with your permission, I would like to run this by a gentleman. I don't think it'll cost us very much if I send everything in here, lay everything out that I know, and then have him tell me, as they reference the statutes on here, if there's anything I'm missing or anything we should know before this meeting.
Are you looking for a motion or?
No, I'm not looking for any action. I'm just running it by you, and if you're not opposed to it,
I'm not opposed to
going
that.
to make that.
The Red Star cluster I get is the lack of water to fight a fire at that intersection right now, which is real and present. But this tip is spread all over the place. It's not. What's it going to be used for? What are the improvements?
Yeah.
Well, they don't know at this time. As I said, they're saying that they want to set this up as a TIF district, and then if and when development is going to take place on any of these undeveloped parcels, they would enter into the TIF at that time, and they would have to list the improvements that are going to be made to benefit that parcel. Now, one of them, we know that water has been a topic out there for a while. It was brought up during the talks about the TIF for the hotel and the restaurant. And I know they've been in talks with ACDES, and they were at one of the meetings that we attended at the city of Geneva in regards to that potential TIF that never happened, that they need a water tower out there. And so that could be an improvement that would benefit all in that area, and that might be an improvement that they would be looking to fund out there. But again, they have to note those specifically in any TIF agreement. So I'm not sure. As I read the statute, I don't necessarily see language in there that says yes, you can set up a TIF district. I thought they'd have to enter into each individual TIF, notify the school district, and ATEX also has to receive notification as they would go about this.
But it's still piecemeal. It's every other property, or they skip 5 properties and get one, and skip 3 and then get another one.
As I said,
How can that be?
it's because those are the undeveloped parcels. The parcels in between or beside these that aren't contiguous are developed. So, they're only naming on this exhibit private parcels to be exempted. Parcels that are not developed, unimproved. They don't have anything on them. They're pretty much just the land. So the appraised value here is probably just the land and not on any building.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at that map, you can kind of see at least the ones that are identified on that map, and then the ones that outside as I look, yeah, they're the same thing. They're a parcel behind Ferrante's, a parcel between Ferrante's and Nordic Air.
I've been on some of these properties.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, this makes no sense.
Again, I think they're just trying to plan for the future, but I think we just want to make sure that what they're planning here, what they're sharing with us, as again, not because they need our approval, but because they want to keep us informed and appreciate that what they have presented here is something that they are permitted to do by statute. So I will check that out tomorrow with an attorney from Bricker and Metzler. I will let you know what I find out. And if I have to set up a meeting with them, I will let you know that too. But I will plan on attending the Monday, September 28th meeting. Yes, that is a public meeting. It's the Board of Trustees plans to consider and may adopt the TIF resolution at its meeting to be held on Monday, September 28th, 2020, commencing at 7 o'clock p.m.
Okay, that brings us to our second hearing of the public. Once again, if there's anything you'd like to say, we need to state your name and address for the record, please. Let us get your microphone.
No, you still need to be picked up on the mic.
My name is Audrey, and you need my address too, right?
Yes, please.
1976 Behringer Place of Geneva.
Can you have your last name also, please?
Tate. I'm not really sure where to begin. This is my first meeting of yours I've ever attended. My children got disenrolled from Geneva school systems this year. One went to Austinburg, one was moving up to the middle school. I have been on the parent board at Austinburg since we moved here 5 years ago. I'm very involved with my kids' schooling and their education. I want them back in school every day for 4 days, and I want to know what it takes to get us there. My kids' education is suffering, and it's not because they're at home with me. We did go through K-12 OHVA. The remote learning last year, and I get that it's a pandemic, and I get that it was everybody's first time doing all this, but it was atrocious. And I could not relive that again this year, which is why we did not come back, because 2 days a week is not enough. They're still at home remote learning or doing busy work 3 days a week. They miss their friends, they miss their teachers. I have one that needs a ton of consistency and structure, and he's just not getting that through Geneva right now. Why can the preschoolers go 4 days a week and my kids can't? What are the reasons for that? That's my first real question.
Typically, those are much smaller classes. We have more adults in those classes so that you have more supervision and the ability to keep them separated. It's not just a single teacher. Typically, they have aides that are also in there. So that's one of the reasons.
They're still going 4 days a week, though. What difference does it make if they're there half a day or full day?
I mean, I hear your concern, and it's been addressed to me numerous times through emails, phone calls, through the administrative staff and other parents. We would love to have all of our students back 4 days, full days. The decision was made for the hybrid plan for a number of reasons, and I've shared those in different documents and through the newspaper and online. Part of it was, these are all brand new procedures to us. We had to make sure that we had them in place and we could safely social distance our students. Now, we've already had a couple cases in the school that we've had to deal with those situations. If we would have been in a full 4 day, full-blown, having all those students in there, it may have been much worse for us in the number of students that might have had to be quarantined or isolated. And again, we're looking at the data. We're going to continue to look at that. We're looking at our procedures. We're making adjustments every single day. And we hope that at the end of September, we can make a decision to have more in-person time. I can't guarantee that. Things change daily. But we hope to get as much in-person time as we can with our students. Some schools have gone completely online. I thought it was important, especially at the beginning of the year, to have some in-person time with students, even if it was limited. I understand it's not enough, and I understand the plan's not beneficial to every student. We're trying to work through that, but bear with us a little bit. I understand your concern. I hear you. And hopefully things will change enough that we're going to be able to have more in-person time soon. Did you have additional questions?
No.
If you have other concerns, Mrs. Page, right? Please reach out to me, and I'll try to talk a little bit more with you, either through phone call or email. If you go home tonight and there's still things that you have concerns about, reach out to me, and I'll try to talk through some of that with you. Again, all of us in this room would love to have our students back more in person. We're all dealing with this for our first time, and whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision or the decision you agree with or disagree with, we had to think of every building, every student in the whole as one district.
I appreciate that, and I definitely didn't come tonight to place blame anywhere. I hope none of it came across that way. I just wanted to voice my concerns as a parent and just say literally tell me what we can do so I can spread the word to get our kids back at school.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think the students that have returned and the parents that have returned to the building, and you can see that we had large numbers of online students, about 550 that chose online because that was the choice that they had. But I think the students that have returned and their families have done the things that we wanted them to do. They've worn their face coverings, they've kept their distance, they're following the procedures that we have in place, and that's only helping us to make decisions as we move forward. Thank you.
If that's all, I recommend the board hold an executive session for the purpose of preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Roll call.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana? And Ms. Fisher?
Thank you for attending tonight. We will not be returning for any action after the meeting.